Recap Saturday's game, MVPs of the game. Nasir Bowers on defense, played one of his better games here as a Rocket. Sometimes that position gets a tough draw, playing, in the slot, playing against the other team's best receiver oftentimes. And then you got to be a really good player to fit the runs, and he's done a really good job this year for us. And he, like I said, had a great game on Saturday. Offensively, it was Kenji Christian for us. I know Tucker got MAC, honors this week, but I thought Kenji stepping in for Chip and playing as the lead running back and go over 100 yards, had a really solid game. Really proud of him for his efforts. And on special teams, Eric Williams blocking a punt, and a great story for a great kid. A great person who's done a lot for our program and done very consistent work over a consistent period of time. And those are the moments why you coach, and those are the things that your team really rallies around. So it was really special to see him get that moment. So turning our page and focus on Washington State here. Really well-coached football team, a very physical team that stresses you in all three phases to be disciplined. This will be our detail versus their detail, and how we approach the game and, the effort and the consistency we play with. They force you to earn everything you get. And then, offensively, they do a great job of trying to stay ahead of the sticks and running the ball and staying balanced to do, to keep your defense at, off balance. And they're really sound in the kicking game. So we've got to handle the trip. This is not an ideal thing. Fly across the country on a Friday afternoon, get up, play, early Saturday morning. But it is what it is. We'll get ready to go play, and our team will be excited to get on the road and try to get our first road victory.
I know this game doesn't count towards your conference standings, but just what do you hope to get out of your team from this kind of opportunity to go across country, play a former power conference school?
Well, I think that throughout the season, there's a lot of tests that, that are put in front of you as when the schedule gets announced. And, we knew this a long time ago that this was going to be a difficult thing to go handle from a logistics standpoint of it. But we have not played great football on the road, and we've got to find a way to do that. And if we're going to get to where we want to go on the next part of the schedule when it pertains to the league games, we got to do this one right first. And it's the next opportunity for us to continue to climb and to get better. So in conference, out of conference, that doesn't matter to us. It's the next challenge, next opponent, next thing up, and on what stares us in the face. Still trying to figure out how to continuously capture really good weeks and put that on tape on Saturday in all three phases and play complementary football. So, no matter where you play or who you play, those are the things in front of you, and you got to do a great job of handling them.
You've obviously experienced some frustrating road losses in recent weeks, but looking at Washington State has suffered two back-to-back pretty heartbreaking losses there. Just from that experience of being on the other side of that, does that change your preparation at all, or just how do you mentally prepare for a team that's probably going to be playing really angry football?
Well, I think that you're talking about 18 to 22-year-old people and competitive endurance, consistent focus, being who you said you were going to be, the things that are consistent challenges throughout the course of the year. There's not a better time in the calendar than mid-October. Everybody wants to win meaningful football games in November. Everybody wants to get off to a great start, but the middle stretch of October where you set yourself up to have meaningful games in November, I don't think enough attention gets put into that book. How many teams in the top 25 lost this weekend? A third of them, damn near. So I think that this is a really critical time in the journey of what you're continuing to build your team and what we've worked really hard, since January for. So, it doesn't really matter who you play, who the opponent is. You got to be at your best. And, the emotions of other people, if that becomes the forefront of anybody's thinking, I think you're in deep trouble.
I don't know how much of a history buff you are with this kind of stuff, but Toledo's only played in the state of Washington once before, 1991. Against the University of Washington. Do you know anything about that game, or just that was when Coach Pinkel was coaching here?
I was 12 in 1991. I think I was rooting for Michael Jordan to go get that first championship that year. It's probably,
Have you read anything in recent weeks about it? Or?
I have not, no.
Okay.
No. But on a sidebar, great to have Coach Pinkel back in the stadium this weekend, and a great advocate for our program, and talk to our players often about knowing the history of your place, you can't really understand where you want to go with your program if you don't know where you've come from. So great to have him back and, that 95 championship team back and let those guys be honored in front of everybody. That was a really cool moment.
Yeah, Jason, you mentioned obviously the road woes. You feel like the preparation has been there each week, just the execution when the result hasn't come. Do you feel like that's something you can sense during the week, or is that just kind of a game day, how you guys perform?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's a challenge. I mean, you have to figure it out. You're by yourself. You're alone. You don't have anybody. You don't have the external things. You don't have the comfort and the knowing of being in your home stadium. And there is something to that. We put a lot of time, energy, and effort into making home environments what they are to make it hard on the opposing team. And other teams have felt that when they come to the Glass Bowl. So everybody across the country is trying to do that to try to create a home field advantage. For the road team, you have to go handle those situations, and we haven't executed down the stretch in some of these games to where we could totally put that to bed. We've played good in some stretches of those games. We just haven't, for whatever reason, been able to totally get over the hump. And looking forward to trying to do that this weekend.
Yeah, one of the bright spots on Saturday, the penalties. You guys only had 3 for 15 yards, and how impressed were you just about the that aspect of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know. This is a dangerous slope for me to go down this path about penalties, but we're ultimately going to be defined by how our actions are and what we do through the course of the football game. This is not worrying about whether we're officiated the correct way or the incorrect way. We got to handle what we can handle. We got to stay off the ground in a kicking game. We got to take the easy ones off the table, the easy pre-snap ones that are that my grandmother could call from the stands. We've got to take those things off the tape, and we haven't had a ton of those, but in recent weeks. But you're going to get some that are effort penalties, and I don't eat any player's lunch over that. You're playing really, really hard, and man, I'm playing against a really good player, and Avery Smith's pass interference penalty against in the BG game. I mean, what's the alternative? We pick the flag up and maybe it gets beat for a touchdown. I just some of those there's difference between you're late and you got stuck behind a train at a crossing walk, or man, I hit my snooze button 3 times. I think there's different categories of where these fall into. So the effort ones, I don't get too caught up in that. But the silly, selfish things that hurt your team in critical moments, we got to continue to find ways to take them off the tape.
Yeah, you talked about the running back depth. Obviously, we saw that with Kenji and Connor getting some playing time. Do we expect Chip to play this week?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what tomorrow brings as far as practice goes. But confident in those guys. If he can't go, the other guys that have done a good job and much improved in pass protection this year from previous years. And obviously they are what they are when they get the ball in their hands. That's easy to see.
Let's go back to Saturday a little bit. You all talked about it a little bit Saturday. 552 yards offense. Tucker had his game. Kenji had his game. What's that offensive line cohesiveness look like this year? Like they don't get all the accolades, but they obviously contribute to that.
Well, I mean, we've got some guys playing a hefty amount of snaps due to some second-team guys that have been hurt and been out for a long time. When you started the season, you would expect that, you'd see Terrence Moore in there right now. You'd see Dom Rivera competing for playing time, if not playing. Grant Zimmerly's been out for the whole season for maybe a couple games. Those are 3 guys that are in your top 8, and when you lose 3 dudes like that, that puts a lot of pressure on the other guys. And, not any other position in the game, but maybe quarterback does a guy play as much as those guys have played. So some of it is by design, some of it is because what we have. Others, we've got to continue to develop the depth and behind them. But I mean, they're tough. They stay in there and they fight, and they handle what we have to handle when it comes at them. And we got to find ways to continue to be great at that position down the stretch here.
You talk about handling adversity and stuff. Coming off the BG loss, down 10-0. What was that leadership group like after the first 2 drives? Come out there and score 45 on Answer.
Well, I mean, I think the coaches can't go out and play for them, right? I mean, we can't go out and catch the ball. We can't go out and cover the guy. We can't go out and make the plays that these guys make. And you got to find in those tough moments, you got to find small wins, and the only way to find them is to make the plays and execute. And when you execute, small wins become bigger ones, and all of a sudden that starts to stack on top of one another, and then you start to see momentum shifts in the course of the football game. And that is evident all over football. Whether that's my son's 7-year-old flag football team or that's the Super Bowl. I mean, there's the momentum swings, and when the emotion of the game switches, you have to be able, when it doesn't go your way, you got to be able to get up and fight again. So proud of our team, his resiliency and their effort to persevere through it. You know, they're, like I said, that phrase, competitive endurance, it's going to be tested the whole way here, and we're going to be in other close games. We're going to be down in some games. We're going to have to get off the mat and fight again. That situation may present itself again this Saturday.